Hello everybody, and welcome to what I like to call How Can We Use AI? I'm here with my colleague from Lenovo.
Hi, I'm Emily Barrett.
And I'm Martin from GTech. And this is a series of podcasts which we're going to talk about how you can actually use AI and how actually it can prove useful for you. So the HESA has done some statistics, and in 2019 to 2020 they talked about that there was a 5.3% rate at which students left the university and didn't come back to the university to complete their courses. Now that doesn't sound a lot, but if you're talking about 550,000 students per year that are entering universities, that's around 30,000 students. The challenge with that, as well as obviously the challenge for the student themselves as to why they left, is also a financial one to universities. And if you take the standard fees of £9,250, that's around £270 million a year that those universities might be losing. And if those students never go back into the education, that's around £750 million that is being lost in the education. There's obviously the ongoing effects about what happens in the local economy. Those students might have got jobs, they would have spent in the university, food, drink, everything like that. So are there ways that we can help universities understand if their students are feeling in such a way that they might want to leave the university?
Yeah, there are definitely AI-based tools that you could use to look at this. So one of the things that computers and AI are really, really good at is spotting patterns.
Okay.
As humans, we like to think we're great at spotting patterns. Actually, we're not that great at spotting patterns. And if you line up a human versus a computer, the computer is going to spot the pattern first. So there may well be patterns as to why students are leaving. And what we can do is look at the data that universities have on students and try to identify those patterns. Okay. And once those patterns are identified, you can go, okay, well, we know that this particular group of actions flags as an early warning that this student may leave. So it might be that if a student hasn't accessed the library ever, they are more likely to leave than students that have accessed the library.
Okay.
So it's being able to spot little things like that that you can then use and go, okay, well, we know if students have independently accessed the library, they're more likely to stay. So we probably need to look at which students haven't. It might be worth, just doing some extra welfare checks on them to see, are you okay? Do you need any extra support? Is there anything we need to be doing differently to better enable you to be able to get the most out of your university experience and ultimately stay in a university environment? I think it's that being able to look at that data. So whether you can or can't do this is going to depend on the data you have on your students. Yeah. That's the first thing to think about. But things like areas that students are accessing.
Yeah.
So there is a system.
How you get into your lectures, even if you've got things like a meal plan or anything like that, are you using that on a daily basis?
Precisely. The basic things like, are students eating?
Yes.
Because that can be a massive indication of whether someone's okay or not. And again, can really help looking at that welfare side of things and perhaps picking up students who need a little bit of extra support.
Yes.
Because let's face it, it's a really tough transition.
It is. A lot of people, it's the first time they've really been away from home for a long time, where effectively they've had to look after themselves, like feeding yourself, like doing your washing, everything like that.
Yeah, and again, like being able to look at people's access patterns generally as well. So, for example, you might find that an early indication of a student dropping out is that they are going home every single weekend, or they're not on campus every single weekend. You'd be able to see that just based on those access patterns. But again, it's things like looking at how students are engaging with their course as well. What data have we got available on that? How are we collecting that? How are people signing into lectures? If they're doing e-learning as well, are they engaging with that content? So what you do is you take all of that data and you take it historically for students as well, where these students have dropped out.
Oh,
Obviously,
yes,
you can
yeah.
anonymise all of this.
Yeah. You find
Person
those
A
patterns
has
effectively.
dropped out, person B, C, D, whoever have not, and you give that to an algorithm and it will go through and it will look for and it will find those patterns. The more data that you can give it, the more accurately it will be able to identify the patterns. And again, that comes down to data quality as well. So
Yes.
as we keep saying, if you put rubbish in, you'll get rubbish out. With everything being so connected now, I think it is much easier for universities to be able to generate that data.
Yes.
But, you know, and I think also looking at this from a getting student buy-in perspective, because if my education provider said to me, I'd like to track everywhere you go,
Yes.
I might have some reservations about that. So I think, yeah, that communication with students as part of this is key as well. But as you say, like it's a big problem, not just for
It
the
is.
students on a personal
Yes.
level, but for the universities.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, I don't know if there's the ability to sell 2 years left of a 3-year course. But other areas as well, can you track kind of their submissions and maybe how they're doing their submissions?
Yeah, and again, that's going to depend on the university systems and how they're doing that. But if you are creating an electronic record of this anywhere, you know, that record exists and it's being able to pull that together with all the other things. So whenever we talk about training AI models and teaching them things, so like why students might drop out, for example, we always also want to have a human expert in this equation, because otherwise how do we know what data we need to look at in order to spot a pattern? And a lot of people have a lot of fear that it's going to replace people, but actually at the moment it just isn't the case. We need human expertise as well. Effectively, what AI allows us to do is do what a human does, but on a much bigger scale. It's, you know, the amount of data that a computer can crunch through is far bigger than the amount of data a human can crunch through.
Yeah.
Not just because, you know, it's what machines are designed to do, but also because they don't need to sleep, eat, drink.
Yep, they can run 24/7.
Exactly. So you need to be able to have that access to expertise as well as access to data to be able to do it. But yes, you absolutely can use AI to help solve this problem.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you very much for that. As before, if you want more further details, just watch for the links at the end of this programme. Thank you very much.